I remember that evening like it was etched into my soul, every detail sharp and unforgiving. It was the annual family dinner at our old Victorian house on Elm Street, the one Grandma had lived in for over 60 years. The air was thick with the scent of roasted turkey, cinnamon-spiced apple pie, and the faint underlying mustiness of aged wood and forgotten memories. We gathered there every Christmas Eve, a tradition that had outlasted divorces, moves, and even the loss of Grandpa a decade ago. But this year felt different, charged with an undercurrent I couldn't quite place. My name is Emily, and at 32, I was the quieter sibling, the one who had chosen a path less traveled. While my sister Sarah had climbed the corporate ladder to become a high-powered marketing executive in New York, complete with a sleek apartment overlooking Central Park and a wardrobe that screamed success, I had stayed closer to home. I ran a small artisan shop in our hometown, crafting handmade jewelry and personalized gifts from reclaimed materials. It wasn't glamorous, but it fed my spirit in ways a paycheck never could. Sarah often teased me about it, calling it my hobby that pays the bills, but her jabs had grown sharper lately, laced with something that felt like resentment. As I pulled into the driveway that snowy December night, my old Volvo crunching over the fresh powder, I clutched the wrapped box in my passenger seat like a talisman. Inside was my gift for Grandma, a custom locket I'd spent months designing. It wasn't just any piece. I'd incorporated fragments of Grandpa's old pocket watch, the one he'd carried through World War II, melting down the gold chain and engraving it with their wedding date. Tiny photos of them from their youth nestled inside, and on the back, I'd etched a quote from their love letters. In every heartbeat, forever yours. It was my way of honoring their story, of keeping Grandpa's memory alive for her. I poured my heart into it, staying up late nights in my workshop, my fingers calloused from the tools. The house was alive with lights when I stepped inside, shaking off the snow from my boots. Laughter echoed from the dining room, mingled with the clink of silverware and the soft croon of Bing Crosby on the radio. Mom was in the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour, barking orders at Dad to carve the turkey properly. My brother Tom was there with his wife and their 2 kids, the little ones chasing each other around the tree. And then there was Sarah, arriving fashionably late as always, her designer coat slung over one arm, a bottle of expensive wine in hand. "Emily, you made it through the storm," Mom called, pulling me into a hug that smelled of vanilla and warmth. "Help me set the table, dear." I nodded, slipping the gift under the tree among the pile of brightly wrapped packages. Sarah spotted me immediately, her perfectly manicured eyebrows arching as she air-kissed my cheeks. "Sis, you look cozy. Is that the same sweater from last year?" I forced a smile. "It's comfortable." "How was the flight?" "Turbulent, but worth it for family, right?" She glanced at the tree. "What did you bring this year? Another one of your creations?" Her tone was light, but there was that edge again. I ignored it, busying myself with the napkins. Dinner unfolded as it always did. Plates heaped with mashed potatoes, gravy boats passed around, stories retold with embellishments. Grandma sat at the head of the table, her silver hair pinned back, her eyes twinkling behind thick glasses. At 85, she was the anchor of our family, her wisdom a quiet force that held us together. As the meal wound down and dessert was served, Grandma's famous pie, of course, the conversation turned to gifts. We didn't do the full exchange until Christmas morning, but there was always a special reveal on Christmas Eve, something meaningful to set the tone. "Who wants to go first?" Dad asked, rubbing his hands together. Sarah volunteered, of course. She presented Grandma with a sleek velvet box. "For you, Grams. I saw this in a boutique in Paris last month and thought of you." Grandma opened it to reveal a stunning diamond bracelet, the stones catching the candlelight like stars. Gasps went around the table. "Oh, Sarah, it's beautiful," Grandma murmured, slipping it on. "You shouldn't have spent so much." "Nonsense," Sarah said, waving it off. "You deserve the best." Tom went next, giving Grandma a framed photo collage of the grandkids. Sweet, heartfelt. Then it was my turn. My heart pounded as I retrieved the box and placed it in front of her. "This is from me, Grandma. I made it myself." Her eyes lit up with curiosity as she unwrapped it, her arthritic fingers careful with the paper. When she saw the locket, she gasped softly, turning it over in her hands. "Emily, this is Grandpa's watch chain. How did you—" "I found it in the attic last summer," I explained, my voice steady despite the nerves. "I wanted to make something that reminds you of him every day." She opened it, her eyes misting over at the photos. "My dear girl, it's perfect." The room was quiet for a moment, the kind of silence that feels full. Then Sarah broke it with a laugh, a sharp, incredulous sound that cut through the air like a knife. "Oh, Emily, really? A homemade trinket? That's adorable, but come on. Grandma, if you want something real, I can take you shopping in the city. We don't need recycled junk cluttering up the place." Her words landed like a slap. The table froze. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Tom's kids stopped giggling. I felt heat rush to my face, a mix of embarrassment and hurt twisting in my gut. "Sarah, that's not fair," I said quietly. "It's not junk. It's meaningful." "Meaningful?" She rolled her eyes, sipping her wine. "Please. You're 32, Em. When are you going to grow up and get a real job instead of playing arts and crafts?" "This is just sad," Dad cleared his throat. "Sarah, enough," but she wasn't done. "I'm just saying what everyone thinks. We all know Emily's business is barely scraping by. Handmade gifts are cute for kids, but at our age, it's embarrassing." Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back. I'd heard variations of this before. Sarah's subtle digs about my choices, her implication that I was the family failure. But saying it here, in front of everyone, mocking something I'd poured my soul into, it stung deeper than ever. Grandma had been silent, her gaze fixed on the locket. Now she looked up, her expression unreadable. "Sarah," she said softly, but with a steel edge I'd rarely heard. "That's enough," Sarah faltered, her smirk fading. "Grams, I didn't mean—" "You did," Grandma interrupted, her voice gaining strength. "And you're wrong. This gift, it's not just a thing. It's a piece of our history, of love that lasted through wars and hardships." Emily saw that. "You with your diamonds. They're pretty, but they're cold. This warms my heart." The room held its breath. Grandma reached across the table, taking my hand. "Emily, thank you. This means more to me than you know." Sarah's face flushed, her confidence cracking. But Grandma wasn't finished. She turned to the family, her eyes scanning each of us. "There's something I need to share. Something I've kept for too long." What followed changed everything. But that moment, with Sarah's mockery hanging in the air and Grandma's quiet defense rising like a shield, was the spark. Little did I know, it would ignite revelations that would reshape our family forever. As Grandma began to speak, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, I felt a shift in the room. "Years ago, when your grandfather and I were young, we didn't have much. The Depression hit hard and we scraped by on love and ingenuity. He made me a ring from a spoon he bent himself. Nothing fancy, but it symbolized everything." She paused, fingering the locket. "Emily's gift reminds me of that. It's not about money. It's about heart. Sarah, your bracelet is lovely, but do you know why I value things like this more?" Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "Because it's sentimental?" "More than that," Grandma said. "It's because I see myself in Emily. I wasn't always the matriarch, you know. I had dreams too, big ones. I wanted to be an artist, painting landscapes that captured the soul of the world. But life got in the way. Marriage, kids, the war. I set it aside, but it never left me." I leaned forward, intrigued. Grandma had mentioned her painting hobby in passing, but never like this. "What happened to your art?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "I hid it away. In the attic, actually. Boxes of canvases, sketches from my youth. I thought no one would care. But Emily, you found that watch chain up there. You saw value in the forgotten." The kids were quiet now, sensing the weight of the moment. Mom looked surprised. Even she didn't know this side of Grandma fully. "Mom, why didn't you tell us?" she asked. "Fear, I suppose," Grandma admitted, "of being mocked, like Sarah just did to Emily. Society back then didn't value women's dreams much. But times have changed, or so I thought." Sarah opened her mouth, then closed it, her earlier bravado gone. I'm sorry, Em. I didn't realize." But I could tell she was still processing, her apology rote. The night pressed on, desserts forgotten as Grandma wove her tale. She spoke of her early days, meeting Grandpa at a dance hall, their whirlwind romance amid uncertainty. How he encouraged her art, even when they could barely afford paint. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Grandma stood, beckoning me. "Come with me, Emily. There's something I want to show you." We climbed the creaky stairs to the attic, the family trailing behind like a procession. Dust motes danced in the flashlight beam as she led us to a corner stacked with covered crates. Pulling back a sheet, she revealed stacks of paintings, vibrant oils of rolling hills, stormy seas, portraits that captured raw emotion. "These are yours now," she said to me. "Take them, display them in your shop. Sell them if you want, but remember, art isn't about perfection or price. It's about connection." Tears streamed down my face. "Grandma, I can't. These are your life's work." "And now they're part of yours," she insisted. "You've reminded me it's never too late." That night, as we descended, the family buzzed with new energy. Sarah lingered behind, touching one of the canvases. "They're beautiful," she whispered. I had no idea. But the real change was just beginning. Over the next days, as Christmas unfolded, secrets unraveled further. Grandma's revelation opened doors to family history I'd never known, stories of resilience, hidden talents, and yes, even rivalries between siblings like Sarah and me. Little did I know, Grandma's reaction wasn't just defense. It was the key to unlocking a legacy that would heal old wounds and forge new bonds. But for now, in that attic glow, I felt seen, valued, for the first time in years. The attic air was thick with the scent of old paper and linseed oil, a time capsule of Grandma's unspoken dreams. As I knelt beside the crates, my fingers tracing the edges of a canvas depicting a sunrise over the family farm, long sold off after Grandpa's passing, I felt a surge of emotion. This wasn't just art. It was her soul laid bare, colors vibrant despite decades of neglect. "Why hide them?" I asked, my voice echoing softly. Grandma sighed, lowering herself into an old rocking chair that creaked under her weight. "After your mother was born, life demanded practicality. Your grandfather worked 2 jobs. I raised the kids. Art became a luxury I couldn't afford, but at night, when everyone slept, I'd sneak up here and paint. It was my secret escape." Sarah, standing in the shadows, stepped forward. "Grams, that's inspiring. Why not share it sooner?" "Fear of judgment," Grandma replied. "Like tonight. Sarah, your words to Emily, they echo what I told myself for years. It's not real work. But look at these. They kept me sane through hard times." I pulled out another painting, a portrait of Grandpa young and dashing in his uniform. "This is incredible. You captured his eyes perfectly, the way they crinkled when he smiled." Grandma nodded, a distant look in her eyes. "He was my muse. When he died, I stopped painting altogether. It hurt too much." The family gathered around, passing canvases like sacred relics. Tom held one up, a stormy ocean scene. "This could be in a gallery, Grams." "Perhaps," she said. "But Emily, I want you to take the lead. Your shop, it's the perfect place to start." My mind raced. My little store, Heartstrings Creations, was modest, tucked between a bookstore and a cafe in downtown. I sold my jewelry, some local crafts, but adding Grandma's art, it could transform it. "I'd be honored," I said. "We could have an exhibit, tell your story." Sarah cleared her throat. "I could help with marketing. I know people in the art world." It was an olive branch, tentative but real. For the first time, I saw vulnerability in her eyes. Perhaps her mockery stemmed from her own insecurities, the pressure of her high-stakes life. As we headed back downstairs, the clock struck midnight. "Merry Christmas," Dad said, raising a glass. The mood was lighter, but the air hummed with unspoken questions. The next morning, Christmas Day dawned bright, snow blanketing the world in white. Gifts were exchanged amid laughter, but Grandma's revelation lingered. Sarah pulled me aside in the kitchen. About last night, I was out of line. Your gift was thoughtful. Mine was safe." "It's okay," I said, though it still stung. "We're different, that's all." "But maybe I envy you," she admitted. "Your life has passion. Mine's all deadlines and deals. That confession cracked something open between us. Over coffee, we talked like we hadn't in years, about her burnout, my struggles with the shop's finances. Grandma joined us, sharing more stories. How she and Grandpa overcame poverty, how art saved her from despair during the war when he was overseas. By afternoon, the kids were playing with their toys, and the adults sat by the fire. Grandma brought out an old photo album, flipping through yellowed pages. See here? That's me at 20, with my first easel. The images told a story of a young woman full of fire, much like me. You look just like Emily, Mom noted. Grandma smiled. She has my spirit. As the day waned, I helped pack some paintings into my car. This is the start of something, I told Grandma. It is, she agreed. But there's more to tell. Come back tomorrow. We'll go through the letters. Letters? Grandpa's love letters, perhaps. I drove home that night, the locket's twin around my neck. Grandma had insisted I make one for myself. The road was quiet, my thoughts swirling. Sarah's mockery had hurt, but Grandma's reaction had turned it into a gift. Unveiling layers of our family I never knew. Little did I know. Those letters would reveal secrets that challenged everything we thought we knew about our heritage, drawing Sarah and me closer in unexpected ways, expanding further to reach 2,000 words. Building backstory. Growing up, Sarah and I were as different as night and day. She was the golden child, straight A's, captain of the debate team, always the center of attention. I was the dreamer, sketching in notebooks, collecting odd bits of metal and glass for my inventions. Mom and Dad encouraged both, but Sarah's achievements were tangible, praised at family gatherings. Mine were cute hobbies. When I opened my shop 5 years ago, after a failed attempt at college, art major, dropped out to travel and find inspiration, Sarah was the first to question it. Are you sure, Em? It's risky. Her concern masked doubt, and over time it turned to snide comments. But that Christmas, something shifted. The day after I returned to the house, Grandma was waiting in the living room, a box of letters on her lap. Sarah was there too, having stayed over. These are from your grandfather, Grandma said. But not just love letters. Some are from his time in the war, others from before we met. We spent hours reading them aloud. Grandpa's handwriting was bold, his words poetic. He wrote of battles, of missing home, but also of a secret. He'd been an aspiring writer, submitting stories to magazines under a pen name. He published a few, Grandma revealed. Mystery tales inspired by his life. I was stunned. Why keep it secret? Same reason as my art, she said. Fear. But he encouraged me to paint, and I encouraged him to write. We were each other's muses. Sarah listened intently. So talent runs in the family. Yes, Grandma said. And it's time to embrace it. That conversation sparked ideas. I proposed a family project, digitizing the letters, perhaps publishing them with Grandma's paintings as illustrations. Sarah offered to fund it, her marketing skills perfect for promotion. Over the next weeks, as winter gripped the town, Sarah and I collaborated. She visited my shop, helping with online listings for the paintings. These are good, Em. Really good. One evening, as we worked late, she opened up. I mocked your gift because I'm jealous. My life looks perfect, but it's empty. No time for creativity, for heart. I hugged her. You can change that. Grandma's health, though, began to worry us. She tired easily, but the project energized her. Seeing you two together, she said, that's the best gift. But then came the twist. In one letter, Grandpa mentioned a family secret, something about his lineage, a hidden branch of the tree. Grandma hesitated. There's more, she said. Your great-grandfather wasn't who we thought. The revelation. Grandpa's father had been adopted, from a line of artists and writers in Europe, fleeing persecution. It explained the creative streak. This bonded us further. Sarah quit her job months later, starting a consultancy that allowed flexibility. I expanded the shop, featuring Grandma's work. Her exhibit drew crowds, even a local newspaper feature. Years on, that dinner remains pivotal. Sarah's mockery was the catalyst. Grandma's reaction, the change. It taught me that gifts from the heart endure, and family bonds, when tested, can strengthen. The weeks following that Christmas felt like stepping into a new world. one where the air was charged with possibility and the weight of Grandma's revelations. My name is Emily, and at 32, I was still reeling from the family dinner that had cracked open our history. The locket I'd crafted for Grandma, born from Grandpa's old pocket watch, had become more than a gift. It was a bridge to a past we were only beginning to understand. Sarah's mockery had stung, but Grandma's defense, and the unveiling of her hidden paintings, had set something in motion that none of us could have predicted. I woke early on a crisp January morning, the kind where the frost painted delicate patterns on my bedroom window in our small hometown. My apartment above the shop, Heartstrings Creations, was a cozy mess of sketchbooks, half-finished jewelry pieces, and now, a crate of Grandma's paintings leaning against the wall. Their colors, bold blues, fiery oranges, seemed to pulse with her younger self, a woman I was just beginning to know. I sipped my coffee, staring at a canvas of a stormy lake, and wondered how many nights she'd spent painting in secret, her dreams tucked away like those canvases in the attic. The shop opened at 10, but I was there by 8, arranging the paintings in the front window. Heartstrings was my sanctuary, a narrow space with exposed brick walls, shelves of my jewelry, rings twisted from copper wire, necklaces with sea glass pendants, and a small counter where I sketched custom orders. It wasn't much, but it was mine, built from years of scavenging flea markets and teaching myself to weld and carve. Sarah's words from Christmas Eve, calling my work recycled junk, still echoed, but Grandma's faith drowned them out. That afternoon, Grandma arrived, bundled in her wool coat, a scarf wrapped around her silver hair. Sarah was with her, a surprise since she'd gone back to New York after New Year's. She looked different, less polished, her hair in a loose bun, wearing jeans instead of her usual tailored slacks. "You're turning this place into a gallery," Sarah said, her tone warm, almost apologetic. She gestured to the paintings. "These look incredible here." "Thanks," I said, cautious but hopeful. "What brings you back so soon?" "Grandma called," she said, glancing at the older woman who was studying a painting of a young couple dancing. "Said there was more to discuss." "About the letters." Grandma nodded, settling into the armchair I kept for customers. "I didn't tell you everything that night. There's another layer to your grandfather's story. And ours." I pulled up a stool, my heart quickening. Sarah sat cross-legged on the floor, like we used to when we were kids listening to Grandma's tales. The shop was quiet. The only sound the faint hum of the heater and the occasional car passing outside. "Your grandfather's father," Grandma began, "wasn't just adopted. He came from a family of artists in Poland, displaced during the early 1900s. They were Jewish, fleeing pogroms. His birth parents died on the journey, and he was taken in by a Catholic couple in New York. That's how he ended up with the name Daniel Harper, your great-grandfather." I blinked, processing. "So we're part Jewish?" Grandma nodded. "It's why your grandfather was so secretive about his writing. He felt the weight of that heritage, even though he was raised differently. He feared it would bring trouble, especially during the war." Sarah leaned forward, her marketing brain already spinning. "This is huge, Grams. A story like this, with your art, his writing, it could resonate with so many people." I shot her a look. "It's not just a story to sell, Sarah. It's our family." She flushed. "I know, Em, I just mean, it's powerful. It deserves to be shared." Grandma patted my hand. "She's right in a way. I hid my paintings. He hid his stories. Maybe it's time to stop hiding." The idea of the family project, publishing Grandpa's letters alongside Grandma's art, grew roots that day. I suggested creating a book, something tangible we could hold, maybe sell in the shop and online. Sarah offered to connect with a publisher friend, and for the first time, I saw her skills as a complement to mine, not a contrast. Over the next few days, we dove into the letters. Grandma brought over another box, yellowed envelopes tied with twine. Grandpa's words were vivid, painting scenes of war-torn Europe, but also quiet moments. His dreams of a life with Grandma, his secret submissions to magazines. One letter, dated 1944, described a story he'd written about a soldier who carried a painting of his lover into battle, a talisman against despair. The parallels to Grandma's art were uncanny. "Was this about you?" I asked, holding the letter. She smiled, eyes distant. In a way. He said my sketches kept him going. I sent him one in every letter, a little piece of home. Sarah, reading over my shoulder, was quiet. Then, Em, I'm sorry again about Christmas. I was awful. Seeing this, it makes me realize how much heart you put into everything. I nodded, the hurt softening. Thanks. Let's just move forward. We spent hours sorting letters, categorizing them by date and theme. Sarah took photos, planning a social media campaign to tease the project. I sketched ideas for the book's cover, a locket intertwined with paintbrushes. Grandma watched us, her pride palpable. But as January wore on, I noticed Grandma tiring more easily. Her hands shook when she held the letters, and her cough, which she brushed off as a cold, lingered. One evening, as we worked in the shop, she dozed off in the armchair. Sarah and I exchanged worried glances. Should we take her to a doctor? I whispered. Sarah nodded. I'll talk to Mom. She's been dodging it, but we can't ignore this. The next day, Mom convinced Grandma for a checkup. The diagnosis came swiftly, early-stage heart failure. Treatable but serious. The news hit like a punch, reminding us how fragile time was. Grandma took it in stride, insisting we keep working on the project. It's my legacy, she said. And yours. That galvanized us. Sarah extended her stay, working remotely from a cafe nearby. I cleared space in the shop for a permanent exhibit of Grandma's art, labeling each piece with its story. Customers started asking questions, drawn to the vibrant landscapes and portraits. A local reporter caught wind, and soon, a feature ran in the town paper. Local artisan honors grandmother's hidden talent. The article went viral online, shared across art blogs and local history groups. Orders for prints of Grandma's work poured in, and my shop's website crashed twice from traffic. Sarah stepped in, upgrading the site and managing inquiries. For the first time, I saw her not as the critical sister, but as a partner. One night, as we closed up, she handed me a coffee. I'm thinking of moving back. New York's exhausting. I want to be part of this. I stared at her. Really? What about your career? I can consult from here. Maybe start something new. This project, it's reminded me why I got into marketing. To tell stories that matter. Her words echoed Grandma's, and I felt a warmth I hadn't in years. I'd like that, I said, but the letters held one more surprise. Tucked in an envelope, we found a document, a will Grandpa had written during the war. It mentioned a small inheritance, not money, but a plot of land in Poland, tied to his birth family. Grandma's eyes widened. I thought that was lost. We researched, discovering the land was still there, now a community garden in Krakow. Sarah proposed a trip to visit it, to connect with our roots. Grandma hesitated, her health fragile, but her eyes sparkled. Maybe in spring, she said. As winter thawed, the project took shape. We secured a publisher, and I began designing the book layout, weaving Grandpa's letters with Grandma's art. Sarah handled outreach, lining up gallery interest for a larger exhibit. The shop became a hub, locals stopping by to share their own stories of hidden talents. One evening, Grandma joined us, looking frail but radiant. You girls have brought me back to life, she said. This is bigger than me now. I hugged her, the locket around my neck a reminder of that fateful dinner. Sarah's mockery had been the spark, but Grandma's reaction, the unveiling of her art, her truth, had set us on this path. The letters hinted at more secrets, ones that would take us across the ocean, but for now, we were rebuilding our family, piece by piece. The story wasn't over. The land in Poland, the book, Grandma's health, they loomed like chapters unwritten. But in that moment, I felt a strength I hadn't known, rooted in love and legacy. Spring melted into a tentative bloom, the world awakening in shades of green and gold that mirrored the vibrancy in Grandma's paintings. My name is Emily, and at 32, I found myself at the helm of a family legacy that was expanding beyond our wildest dreams. The locket I'd made for Grandma, sparked by that ill-fated Christmas dinner where Sarah mocked my homemade trinket, had evolved into something profound. Grandma's reaction, unveiling her hidden art, and defending my creativity, had not only mended the rift between Sarah and me, but also unearthed a tapestry of family, secrets woven through generations. The shop, Heartstrings Creations, had transformed. What was once a quiet haven for my jewelry now buzzed with visitors drawn to Grandma's exhibit. Canvases lined the walls, stormy seas that captured the turmoil of war, serene landscapes echoing lost homelands, and intimate portraits of Grandpa that brought tears to strangers' eyes. Sales picked up, not just prints, but my own pieces too, as people connected the dots between Grandma's art and my craftsmanship. I hired a part-time helper, a young art student named Mia, to manage the influx while I focused on the book project. Sarah had made good on her word, relocating temporarily to our hometown. She rented a small cottage near the lake, trading her Manhattan skyline for starry nights and birdsong. Her consultancy work allowed flexibility, and she threw herself into marketing our story. "We're not just selling a book," she'd say, her eyes alight. "We're sharing resilience, heritage, love." We met daily at the shop or Grandma's house, poring over the letters. Grandpa's words leaped off the pages, a blend of poetry and grit. One entry from 1943 described his unit stumbling upon an abandoned artist's studio in France. Amid the rubble, I found a half-finished canvas, a woman's face, fierce and unbroken. "It reminded me of you, my love. We carry our art through the chaos." Grandma would nod, adding her own memories. I painted that face years later from his description. "It's one of the ones in your shop now." The publisher loved it. They fast-tracked production, aiming for a fall release. I designed the layout, pairing letters with corresponding artworks. Sarah secured endorsements from historians and artists, even a blurb from a best-selling author who specialized in wade-you-wind memoirs. But Grandma's health cast a shadow. Her heart failure required medication and rest, yet she insisted on participating. "This keeps my ticker going," she'd joke, though her pallor worried us. Mom hovered, cooking nutrient-packed meals while Dad handled errands. Tom and his family visited more, the kids fascinated by the secret paintings. One April afternoon, as rain pattered against the shop windows, Sarah burst in, laptop in hand. Check this out." I dug deeper into the land in Poland. The plot Grandpa mentioned in his will, a small parcel in Krakow tied to his birth family. Sarah had contacted a genealogist, uncovering records. It was once part of a larger estate owned by Jewish artists, confiscated during the Holocaust, but partially reclaimed post-war. The community garden there now honored that history, with memorials to lost creators. "We have to go," Sarah said. "It's not just land. It's our roots." Grandma, sipping tea in the armchair, looked thoughtful. "I'm too old for planes, girls. But you go. Bring back stories for the book." I hesitated. "Without you? It feels wrong." She squeezed my hand. "No, it's perfect. You two, representing the future. Find what's there. It'll complete our tale." Planning the trip consumed us. Sarah handled logistics, flights to Warsaw, then train to Krakow. I researched sites, the Jewish Quarter, museums on WBO art theft. We'd visit the garden, perhaps meet locals connected to the family line. As departure neared, tensions surfaced. Sarah's old habits crept back, micromanaging itineraries, questioning my packing choices. Do you really need all those sketchbooks?" "We're not on a retreat," I bit back a retort. "They're for documenting, like Grandma's art," she sighed. "Sorry, I'm stressed. This feels big. It was..." The night before our flight, we gathered at Grandma's. She gave us a small box. Inside, a faded photograph of Grandpa's birth parents, elegant in pre-war attire, and a key. "To the garden gate," she explained. "From the will. Symbolic now, but take it." Her cough worsened that evening, landing her in the hospital for observation. "Just a tune-up," she assured us from her bed. "Go. I'll be here when you return." With heavy hearts, we boarded the plane. The flight was long, Sarah fidgeting with work emails while I sketched ideas for book illustrations. Landing in Warsaw felt surreal, the air crisp, history palpable in the cobblestone streets. We spent a day exploring the Warsaw Uprising Museum, where exhibits on resistance echoed Grandpa's letters. Then, the train to Krakow, winding through countryside that could have inspired Grandma's landscapes. Krakow enchanted us, its medieval square, the Wawel Castle glowing under spring sun. But the Jewish quarter, Kazimierz, held our focus. Synagogues turned museums, street art commemorating lost lives. We found the garden tucked behind a quiet alley, a verdant oasis amid urban stone. The caretaker, an elderly man named Jakob, met us at the gate. Sarah showed the documents. He nodded, eyes widening at the old key. This family, yours, they were patrons of the arts. Painters, sculptors. Much was lost, but the land survived. He led us through paths lined with blooming flowers, sculptures dotted here and there, modern tributes to pre-war creators. At the center, a plaque listed names, including Grandpa's birth parents, Elias and Miriam Cohn. Tears welled as I touched the stone. They were artists too? Jakob confirmed. Elias was a renowned painter. Some works survived in private collections. Sarah photographed everything, her voice hushed. This changes the book. It's not just Grandpa and Grandma, it's generations. We spent hours there, sketching, me, and interviewing Sarah. Jakob shared stories, how the garden became a haven for survivors, a place to plant seeds of memory. That evening, in a cozy cafe, we called Grandma. It's beautiful, I said, describing the blooms, like your paintings come to life. Her voice was weak but joyful. Good, now dig deeper. There's more. Puzzled, we pressed Jakob the next day. He revealed a hidden archive in a nearby synagogue. Letters and artworks from the Cohn family, preserved by chance. What we found stunned us. Elias Cohn's paintings, abstract expressions of joy and sorrow, similar in style to Grandma's. And letters. One from Elias to his son, Grandpa's father, urging him to carry the brush forward, even in new lands. But the bombshell. A family tree showing a branch we didn't know, a cousin who survived the war settling in Israel. Her descendants lived there still, artists themselves. Sarah's eyes lit. We have living relatives? Jakob provided contacts. We extended our trip, flying to Tel Aviv. Meeting them, Aunt Leah's granddaughter Naomi, a sculptor, was like finding missing puzzle pieces. She shared family artifacts, a locket, eerily similar to mine, containing a tiny painting. Art binds us, Naomi said, hugging us. Your grandmother's work, it echoes ours. Photos, stories, even a promise to collaborate on exhibits. Sarah networked. I connected creatively. The book swelled with new chapters. Returning home, we rushed to Grandma's bedside. Her condition had stabilized, but she looked frail. We shared everything, the garden, the archive, the relatives. She smiled, a tear escaping. I knew bits from Grandpa's whispers. But this, it's closure. The trip healed Sarah and me fully. No more mockery, only mutual respect. She decided to stay permanently, partnering in the shop. Heartstrings expanded, we joked. As summer approached, the book neared completion. But Grandma's health declined again, a reminder that time was precious. We dedicated it to her. For the artist in our blood, hidden no more. The story unfolded further. Launches, discoveries. But in that hospital room, surrounded by family, I felt the true change. Sarah's words at dinner had hurt, but Grandma's reaction had ignited a fire, illuminating paths we never knew existed. Summer settled over our hometown like a warm embrace, the days lengthening into evenings filled with fireflies and the distant hum of lawnmowers. My name is Emily, and at 32, I was navigating a life that had blossomed unexpectedly from the seeds of that Christmas dinner. The locket I'd crafted, dismissed by Sarah as a mere trinket, had become the symbol of our family's rebirth. Grandma's fierce reaction, unveiling her art and standing against Sarah's mockery, had propelled us into a journey of discovery, from attic treasures to overseas roots. Now, with the book nearing publication, our story was about to go public, but new challenges loomed, testing the bonds we'd forged. The shop, Heartstrings Creations, had become a local landmark. Visitors came not just to buy, but to linger, sharing their own tales of hidden passions while admiring Grandma's paintings. I'd expanded the space, knocking down a wall to create a gallery nook where her canvases hung under soft lights. My jewelry sales soared, inspired by the family's heritage. Pieces incorporating motifs from the Cone artists, like swirling abstracts in silver wire. Mia, my assistant, handled the day-to-day, freeing me to focus on the book. Sarah had fully committed to staying. She converted her cottage into a home office, balancing consultancy gigs with our project. Our collaboration was seamless now. Her strategic mind complemented my creative one. We'd argue occasionally, over cover designs or chapter orders. But it was productive, laced with laughter instead of resentment. The publisher sent proofs in mid-June, the pages crisp and promising. Titled Brushes of Legacy, Letters, Art, and the Threads That Bind, it wove Grandpa's wartime words with Grandma's paintings, augmented by our Polish and Israeli discoveries. Photos from the garden in Krakow, artifacts from Naomi's family. It all came together in a tapestry of resilience. We planned a launch event at the local community center, inviting family, friends, and even press. Sarah handled invitations, securing a spot on a regional news segment. This could go national, she said, her excitement contagious. Grandma was thrilled but weakening. Her heart failure required more doctor visits, oxygen at night. She downplayed it, insisting on attending rehearsals for her reading at the launch. "I'll be fine," she'd say, her voice thinner, but her spirit unbroken. One humid afternoon, as we reviewed the proofs in Grandma's living room, she dropped another revelation. Flipping to a section on the Cone family, she pointed to a painting reproduction, Elias Cone's abstract of a shattered violin. "There's something I didn't tell you girls. Your grandfather, he played the violin as a boy. Secretly, like everything else." I set down my tea. "Really? Why hide that?" "Fear," she said simply. "His adoptive parents discouraged it. Too ethnic, they said. But he taught himself, using a borrowed instrument. When we met, he'd play for me in hidden spots." Sarah leaned in. "Did he keep it?" "The violin?" Grandma nodded toward the attic. "Up there, gathering dust. We retrieved it that day. A weathered case containing a beautiful old fiddle. Strings slack but intact. Inside, sheet music yellowed with age, compositions in Grandpa's hand. "This could be part of the exhibit," I suggested. "Music from our heritage." Sarah's eyes sparkled. "We could have a performance at the launch. Find a violinist to play his pieces." The idea took hold. We contacted a local musician, Alex, who specialized in historical instruments. He restored the violin, transcribing the faded notes. The melodies were haunting, echoes of Eastern European folk tunes blended with wartime melancholy. As July heated up, Grandma's condition fluctuated. One good day, she'd join us at the shop, critiquing displays. The next, she'd be bedridden, her cough rattling. Mom confided her fears. "The doctors say it's progressing. We need to prepare." But Grandma rallied for the project. "This book, it's my swan song," she joked, though her eyes held a deeper truth. The launch approached, set for late August. We transformed the community center. Banners with book covers, tables of artifacts, the locket, letters, the violin. Naomi flew in from Israel, bringing Cone family heirlooms. Jakub sent a video message from Krakow. The night before, nerves hit. Sarah and I stayed up late at her cottage, polishing speeches. "And what if no one comes?" She fretted. "They will," I assured her. "This story, it's universal. Launch day dawned clear." The hall filled, locals, art enthusiasts, even distant relatives we'd connected with online. Tom and his family sat front row, kids wide-eyed. Mom and Dad beamed with pride. Grandma arrived in a wheelchair, dressed elegantly, the diamond bracelet from Sarah glinting alongside my locket. She looked regal, though pale. The event began with Alex playing Grandpa's violin piece, a melody that filled the room with emotion, notes rising like memories. Then readings, excerpts from letters, descriptions of paintings. Naomi shared Cone's stories, linking past to present. When it was my turn, I spoke from the heart. This started with a simple gift, mocked but meaningful. Grandma's reaction changed everything, showing us that art, love, legacy, they endure. Sarah followed, her voice steady. I was the mocker, blinded by my own insecurities. But this journey taught me. True value isn't in price tags, but in the stories we carry. Grandma closed, reading a letter Grandpa wrote on their anniversary. In every stroke of your brush, I see our forever. Tears flowed freely. The book sold out that night. Signings stretching late. Reviews poured in. Praise for its authenticity, its blend of history and heart. A national outlet picked it up, scheduling interviews. But joy mingled with sorrow. 2 days later, Grandma collapsed, hospitalized, her heart struggling. We gathered at her bedside, the book in her hands. You did it, she whispered. I'm so proud. She lingered weeks, sharing more tales, childhood escapades, wartime fears. We recorded them, planning a sequel. One quiet evening, she called Sarah and me close. There's one last secret. In the violin case, a hidden compartment. We fetched it. Inside, a small pouch with diamonds, raw and unpolished. From the Kohn family, she explained. Smuggled out. Grandpa kept them safe for emergencies. Stunned, we appraised them. Valuable, enough to secure the shop, fund scholarships in art. But more than money, Grandma said. Proof of survival. Her health declined rapidly after. We held vigil, family united. She passed peacefully one September morning, the locket clutched in her hand. Grief hit hard, but her legacy cushioned it. The book climbed charts. Exhibits toured. Sarah and I grew the shop into a cultural center, offering classes in art and writing. Naomi visited often, collaborations blooming. We traveled back to Poland, planting a tree in the garden for Grandma. Years later, reflecting on that dinner, I see it as the pivot. Sarah's words hurt, but Grandma's fire illuminated our path. Mockery became motivation. Reaction, revelation. The story continued, new discoveries, deeper bonds. But Grandma's spirit guided us, her art eternal. In the wake of the launch's success, offers flooded in, publishers wanting sequels, galleries proposing international shows. Sarah fielded them, her expertise shining. But with Grandma's decline, we paused, focusing on her. The diamond's discovery added layers. We debated, sell for security or preserve as heirlooms. Tom suggested donating to a Holocaust museum. Mom wanted them divided. Tensions rose at a family meeting. Sarah argued for investment in the shop. I favored creating a foundation for artists. Like Grandma would want, I said. Agreement came slowly. But we formed Kohn Harper Legacy Fund, supporting creative pursuits. Grandma approved before passing. Her smile weak but genuine. Funeral was beautiful. Violin music, art displays. Eulogies celebrated her hidden life now revealed. Post-loss, Sarah and I leaned on each other. She confessed burnout from her old life. I admitted shop struggles pre-project. Together, we innovated. Online courses on family history through art. Partnerships with Naomi's studio. A challenge emerged. A distant relative contested the diamonds, claiming rights. Legal battles loomed, testing our unity. Sarah handled lawyers. I researched archives. We uncovered documents proving Grandpa's ownership, quashing the claim. Victory strengthened us. The fund launched, granting scholarships. As fall leaves fell, I found peace in creation, crafting a new locket with a diamond shard, symbolizing endurance. The journey, sparked by that dinner, evolved. From mockery to mastery. Reaction to Renaissance. Fall brought a crispness to the air, leaves turning fiery hues that reminded me of Grandma's boldest paintings, the ones where she captured autumn's defiance against winter's approach. My name is Emily, and at 33 now, I was stepping into a role I never imagined. Guardian of a family legacy that had exploded beyond our small hometown. What started with Sarah's cutting words at that Christmas dinner, mocking my handmade locket as recycled junk, had been transformed by Grandma's unyielding reaction. Her defense opened floodgates to art, letters, hidden heritage, and now, in the wake of her passing, a burgeoning empire of memory and creativity. But grief doesn't pause for success, and as we navigated the book's acclaim, new shadows emerged, challenging us to honor her spirit without losing our own. The shop, Heartstrings Creations, had become a beacon. With the legacy fund established from the Cone diamonds, appraised at a staggering sum we divided wisely, we expanded. Sarah and I bought the adjacent space, turning it into a workshop for art classes. Locals enrolled, retirees rediscovering painting, kids crafting jewelry from scraps, even corporate types like Sarah's old colleagues seeking creative outlets. The book, Brushes of Legacy, hit bestseller lists, its poignant blend of history and heart, resonating in a world hungry for authentic stories. Royalties poured in, funding scholarships that sent aspiring artists to study abroad, echoing our trip to Poland. Sarah thrived in this new chapter. She'd shed her New York armor completely, her once sharp edges softened by purpose. Remember when I called your work a hobby?" she'd say with a wry smile over coffee. Turns out it was the real deal all along. But success bred complications. Media attention intensified. A documentary crew approached, wanting to film our story. They promised sensitivity, but their questions probed deep. Grandma's secrets, our sibling rivalry, the diamond's origins. Sarah handled negotiations, insisting on creative control. "This isn't tabloid fodder," she argued. "It's about inspiration." I focused on the emotional core, curating exhibits that traveled to galleries in Chicago and Boston. Naomi, our Israeli cousin, joined one opening, her sculptures complementing Grandma's canvases. "This bridges continents," she said, toasting with wine. Bonds formed there. Collaborations on joint pieces, blending Cone abstracts with my jewelry designs. Yet grief lingered like an undercurrent. Grandma's absence hit in quiet moments, spotting a painting and reaching for the phone to call her, or hearing violin music and remembering Alex's performance at the launch. Mom struggled most, retreating into routines, while Dad busied himself with fund administration. Tom and his kids visited often, the little ones asking about great-grandma's magic pictures. One rainy October evening, as I closed the shop, a letter arrived, official, from a law firm in Europe. It contested the diamond's ownership, claiming they belonged to another branch of the Cone family, lost during the war. The claimant, a distant relative named Victor, produced documents alleging smuggling routes that bypassed Grandpa's line. Sarah was furious. "This is extortion. We have proof." We huddled with lawyers, poring over archives. The battle drained us. Depositions, travel to Geneva for hearings. I questioned everything. Was our legacy built on shaky ground? Sarah's old corporate savvy shone, uncovering inconsistencies in Victor's claims. "He's after a payout," she deduced. The stress strained our renewed bond. During a late-night argument in the shop, Sarah snapped, Your idealism is great, but we need aggression here." "This could ruin everything," I fired back. "And your bulldozing almost ruined us before." Grandma taught us hard overhead. We stormed off, echoes of that Christmas mockery resurfacing. But morning brought apologies, hugs, and a united front. We won the case in November, the judge ruling in our favor based on Grandpa's will and wartime records. Victor settled for a symbolic share donated to Holocaust memorials. Victory emboldened us. The fund grew, sponsoring an international art retreat in Krakow's garden. Sarah and I attended, planting more trees, meeting survivors' descendants. Jakub, the caretaker, became a friend, sharing untold stories that inspired a sequel book, Echoes of the Garden. Back home, personal lives evolved. I started dating Alex, the violinist, drawn together by music and memory. Our first date was a picnic under stars, him playing Grandpa's melodies. "Your family's story moved me," he confessed. It was gentle, healing. Sarah surprised us by adopting a rescue dog, a fluffy mutt named Brush, symbolizing her softer side. She even took painting classes, her canvases abstract like the Cones. "Not as good as Graham's," she'd laugh, but pride gleamed in her eyes. As winter neared, another twist. A Hollywood producer optioned the book for a film. Meetings in LA dazzled, scripts capturing the dinner scene, our travels. But we insisted on authenticity, no glamorizing the pain, emphasizing the art's power. Grandma's house, now a family trust, became a residency for artists. We hosted the first in December, snow blanketing Elm Street like that fateful Christmas. Gathering there for the holidays, We exchanged gifts, meaningful, handmade. Sarah gave me a painting she'd done, us as kids, reconciled. "This is us now," she said, eyes misty. The anniversary of Grandma's passing approached, marked by a memorial exhibit. Crowds came, sharing how the book changed them, uncovering their own hidden talents. But beneath the triumphs, a new secret surfaced. Sorting Grandma's final papers, we found a journal, entries from her last months, revealing she'd known about Victor all along. "I trusted you'd handle it," she wrote. Strength in unity. It humbled us, reinforcing her wisdom. The story, far from over, promised more layers. Film productions, fund expansions, perhaps even tracing more relatives. That Christmas Eve, toasting by the fire, I felt Grandma's presence. Sarah's mockery had been the catalyst, her reaction the compass. From pain to purpose, our family's narrative continued, magnetic and unbreakable. The legal battle with Victor wasn't just paperwork. It was the emotional roller coaster. Flights to Europe blurred days, jet lag compounding grief. In Geneva, the courtroom's sterile air contrasted our story's warmth. Sarah presented evidence flawlessly, her voice steady as she recounted Grandpa's letters. I testified on the art's significance, holding a locket replica. Victor's side argued displacement, but our genealogist dismantled it. Winning felt bittersweet, gaining closure but acknowledging shared history. We invited Victor to the fund, turning rivalry to alliance. Post-victory, the documentary aired, drawing acclaim. Interviews revisited the dinner. Sarah's words hurt, I admitted on camera. But they sparked truth. Sarah reflected, "I was lost in success's illusion. Emily's gift showed real value." The film deal brought scrutiny. Tabloids twisted angles. Sisters' feud fuels fortune. We countered with op-eds, focusing on heritage. Personally, Alex became my anchor. Walks by the lake, discussing compositions inspired by letters. "You're composing your own symphony," he said. Sarah dated sporadically, prioritizing self-growth. "No rush," she'd say. Brush, her dog, brought joy, romping through leaves. The retreat in Krakow was magical. Artists from everywhere converged, workshops in the garden. I taught jewelry. Sarah led storytelling sessions. Naomi sculpted on site, pieces honoring lost ones. One night, under stars, we shared Grandma's tales. A participant, a young painter from Ukraine, mirrored her spirit. "Your story gives hope," she said. Homeward ideas bubbled. A podcast series, Legacy Voices, interviewing hidden artists. December's residency at Grandma's house hosted 5 creators. Their energy revived the Victorian walls, laughter, paint smells, echoing her attic days. Holiday dinner was poignant. No mockery, only gratitude. Tom's kids gifted drawings. Mom, a quilt from Grandma's fabrics. As midnight neared, Sarah and I slipped to the attic, toasting with wine. "To Grams," we said. The journal's discovery deepened our resolve. Her final entry, "My girls, carry the brush. Love eternal." It fueled the sequel, incorporating her journal. Publishers clamored. We proceeded carefully. As New Year loomed, I sensed more ahead, perhaps unearthing Grandpa's unpublished stories, or expanding the fund globally. The magnetic pull of our tale drew us forward, coherent in its chaos, coesa in bonds reforged. Grandma's reaction hadn't just changed everything, it ensured our story's eternal echo. Winter wrapped our hometown in a blanket of snow once more, the cycle of seasons mirroring the enduring loop of our family's story. One that began with a single, stinging moment at Christmas dinner, but had grown into a legacy of art, discovery, and healing. My name is Emily, and at 33, I stood at the threshold of new beginnings, the locket around my neck a constant reminder of Grandma's wisdom. Sarah's mockery of my handmade gift had been the unintended spark, igniting Grandma's reaction that unveiled hidden paintings, wartime letters, and a heritage spanning continents. With the book a bestseller, the Legacy Fund thriving, and the shop a cultural hub, life felt full. Yet as the first anniversary of Grandma's passing approached, fresh revelations and challenges emerged. testing whether our bonds could withstand the pull of the past and the promise of the future. The shop, Heartstrings Creations, pulsed with holiday energy. Twinkling lights framed Grandma's paintings, and the expanded workshop hosted festive classes, ornament-making sessions where participants infused their creations with personal stories, much like my locket. Sales boomed. Book copies flew off shelves, jewelry inspired by cone motifs glittered in displays, and the sequel, Echoes of the Garden, was in final edits. Sarah and I co-authored it, weaving Grandma's journal entries with tales from the Krakow retreat and Victor's resolved claim. Sarah had blossomed into a true partner. Her cottage became our creative den, walls covered in storyboards for the upcoming film adaptation. The scriptwriters want to amp up the drama at the dinner scene, she said one evening, poring over pages by the fire. Brush, her dog, snoozed at our feet. I frowned, sketching revisions. But it wasn't just conflict. It was the turning point, Grandma's quiet strength. She nodded. We'll fight for authenticity. This is her story. The film deal brought glamour and grit. Producers visited, scouting locations. Grandma's house for attic scenes, the shop for modern-day sequences. Alex, my boyfriend, composed the soundtrack, his violin weaving Grandpa's melodies with contemporary twists. Our relationship deepened. He moved in above the shop, his music filling quiet nights. But amid the buzz, a letter arrived in early December, from Naomi in Israel. Dearest cousins, it read, I've uncovered more cone artifacts, a collection of Elias's unpublished sketches, hidden in a Tel Aviv vault. They reference a lost sibling, possibly another branch. Sarah's eyes widened as we read it together. Another relative? This could expand the fund, the books, everything. Excitement mixed with caution. We'd just settled Victor's claim. Another hunt felt daunting. Yet Grandma's journal urged, dig deeper. Family trees have hidden roots. We planned a winter trip to Israel, bundling it with a fund-sponsored exhibit there. Mom and Dad joined, turning it into a family pilgrimage. Tom stayed behind with the kids, managing the shop remotely. Tel Aviv welcomed us with Mediterranean warmth, a stark contrast to home's chill. Naomi met us at the airport, her sculptor hands calloused like mine. The vault's in an old synagogue, she explained, driving through bustling streets. Elias hid them during the 1930s exodus. The vault was a time capsule. Dusty crates revealing sketches, vibrant charcoals of pre-war life, figures dancing, landscapes yearning. One series depicted a young woman, annotated, My sister, lost in the crossing. Lost? I asked, tracing the lines. Naomi nodded. Records show Elias had a sibling, Rivka, who vanished en route to America. Some say she survived, starting a line in South America. Sarah pulled out her laptop. We could trace her. DNA tests, archives. The discovery electrified us. We spent days in libraries, scanning manifests. Mom, ever the organizer, cross-referenced with Grandpa's letters. Dad photographed everything for the sequel. A breakthrough came via a Buenos Aires contact. Rivka had indeed reached Argentina, marrying and raising artists. Her great-granddaughter Sophia lived there, a muralist whose work echoed Grandma's. Virtual calls followed. Sophia's face on screen was familiar, high cheekbones like mine. I've heard whispers of European kin, she said in accented English. Your book, It Found Me. Plans formed. Invite her to the fund. Collaborate on murals for the garden in Krakow. But doubts crept in. Sarah worried about overextension. The fund's resources are stretched with the film. I countered. This is what Grandma meant. Connecting branches. Tensions peaked during a heated discussion in Naomi's studio. You're dreaming big, but practically? Flights, exhibits, it's costly, Sarah argued. And you're back to numbers over heart, I shot back. Echoes of old rivalries. Naomi mediated. Remember why you started. Unity. We reconciled over falafel, agreeing to pace ourselves. Sophia joined virtually for the sequel's final chapter, her stories adding Latin flair to our European roots. Returning home just before Christmas, we carried sketches and renewed purpose. The shop's holiday event drew crowds, readings from the sequel, violin performances, even a live mural demo via video with Sophia. But personal storms brewed. Alex proposed on a snowy walk, a ring he'd crafted himself inspired by my jewelry. Joy overwhelmed me, but doubt surfaced. Was I ready, with the legacy demanding so much? Sarah noticed my hesitation. Grandma balanced love and art. You can too. Her words echoed as we prepared for the anniversary memorial. Held at Grandma's house, now the residency. It featured global tributes, messages from Krakow, Israel, Argentina. That night, family gathered. Tom shared kid drawings. Mom unveiled a family tree quilt, branches extending worldwide. Sarah pulled me aside. I mocked your gift once because I envied your passion. Now I see it's our strength. I hugged her. We've come far. The new year brought the film's production start. Sets recreated the dinner. Sarah's actress capturing her sharpness, mine my quiet resolve, Grandma's the pivotal fire. Challenges arose, script changes diluting messages. We advocated fiercely, Sarah's negotiation skills shining. Meanwhile, the fund sponsored Sophia's visit. Her arrival in spring sparked collaborations, murals in the shop, workshops blending styles. A final twist. Among Rivka's papers, sent by Sophia, a letter from Elias to Grandpa's father, urging preservation of the family violin, confirming its cone origins. Alex restrung it, playing at a concert fundraiser. The melody united us, past and present harmonizing. As spring bloomed, I accepted Alex's proposal, the ring a symbol of blended lives. The story, ever evolving, promised more, film premieres, global exhibits, perhaps tracing more lost kin. That Christmas dinner's mockery had faded, replaced by Grandma's enduring reaction, a catalyst for a magnetic saga of love, art, and unbreakable family ties. The flight to Israel was turbulent, mirroring my inner whirl. Mom clutched Dad's hand, Sarah buried in notes. Landing, the salty air invigorated. Naomi's home studio overflowed with clay figures, abstract emotions frozen in form. These sketches, she said, unveiling them, Elias's last before fleeing. I touched a portrait. Rivka, fierce-eyed. She looks like Grandma. Days blurred in research. Archives smelled of old paper. Manifests listed ghosts. Sophia's call was electric. My abuela spoke of a brother Elias, your grandpa, my cousin. Virtual toasts sealed connections. Back home, the memorial was poignant. Candlelight flickered on paintings. Alex's violin wept melodies. Proposal night. Snowflakes danced as Alex knelt. Emily, your heart crafts worlds. Let me join yours. Tears froze on cheeks. Yes, I whispered later, after reflection. Film sets buzzed. Directing the dinner scene, I advised, Grandma's voice, steel wrapped in velvet. Premiere loomed, but first, Sophia's visit. Her murals transformed the shop wall, blooming gardens linking continents. At a fund gala, she spoke. Art crosses oceans, heals divides. The sequel launched to acclaim, royalties fueling more scholarships. Personal growth. Sarah started therapy, unpacking old jealousies. That mockery, my insecurity projection, our bond solidified. As maid of honor plans formed, I felt complete. The narrative, coherent in its twists, cuisa and emotions, drew us onward. Grandma's legacy, eternal and magnetic. The spring of my 33rd year bloomed with a vibrancy that felt like Grandma's paintings come to life. Each day a canvas of new beginnings and cherished endings. My name is Emily, and as I stood on the cusp of marriage to Alex, with Heartstrings Creations now a global symbol of family legacy, I felt the weight and wonder of the journey sparked by that Christmas dinner. Sarah's mockery of my locket had been the unintentional flint, and Grandma's fierce reaction, unveiling her hidden art and igniting our quest for truth, had forged a path through attics, across oceans, and into hearts worldwide. Now, with the book a bestseller, the Legacy Fund thriving, and a film set to premiere, we faced the final chapter of this saga, weaving loose threads into a tapestry that honored Grandma's vision while embracing our future. The shop buzzed with anticipation as summer neared. The expanded space, now a hybrid of gallery, workshop, and community hub, welcomed artists from Krakow, Tel Aviv, and Buenos Aires. Sofia, our Argentine cousin, had settled in for a month-long residency, her vibrant murals adorning the walls, scenes of blooming gardens that linked our family's scattered roots. Visitors marveled, leaving notes in a guest book. "Your story inspired me to paint again," or "This feels like home." My jewelry, infused with cone motifs, sold alongside prints of Grandma's work, each piece a testament to resilience. Sarah had transformed, her once corporate edge now a warm determination. She ran the legacy fund with precision, funding scholarships and retreats, while balancing her own painting, abstracts that echoed Elias Cohn's style. "I'm finally creating, not just strategizing," she said one evening, paint smudged on her cheek, brush wagging at her side. The film, Brushes of Legacy, was our final mountain. Set for a July premiere, it captured the dinner scene's raw emotion, Sarah's sharp words, my quiet hurt, Grandma's steely defense, then traced our journey to Poland, Israel, and Argentina. Alex's soundtrack, weaving Grandpa's violin melodies, gave it soul. We'd fought for authenticity, rejecting Hollywood's urge to dramatize, ensuring Grandma's heart shone through. But closure demanded more than a screen. Grandma's journal, found after her passing, had hinted at one last wish: take the legacy home, where it began. We puzzled over it until Sofia, during a late-night brainstorming session, suggested the garden in Krakow. It's where the Cohn's story started. Maybe that's home. The idea took root. We planned a final trip, a pilgrimage to plant the last of the Cohn diamonds in the garden, a symbolic return. Naomi and Sofia joined, along with Mom, Dad, and Tom's family. The fund sponsored it, inviting young artists to witness Krakow in June was radiant, the garden lush with blooms. Jakub, the caretaker, greeted us, his eyes crinkling like Grandpa's in old photos. "You've brought the family full circle," he said, leading us to the plaque honoring Elias and Miriam Cohn. We gathered at dusk, the sky streaked with pinks and golds. I held the small pouch of diamonds, raw, glinting faintly. Sarah spoke first, her voice steady. "This began with a misunderstanding, my words cutting where they should have healed. But Grandma's reaction showed us truth: art, love, family endure." Naomi placed a sculpture beside the plaque, a bronze locket, open to reveal a tiny canvas. "For our ancestors," she said. Sofia added a painted stone, vibrant with Latin flair. "For Rivka, who carried the brush to new lands." I knelt, burying the diamonds in the soil. "For Grandma, who taught us to see value in the hidden." Tom's kids scattered flower seeds, giggling as they honored great-grandma's magic. Mom and Dad, arm in arm, wept quietly. As we stood, Alex played the violin, Grandpa's restored instrument, its notes soaring. The melody wove past and present, a final chord of closure. Back home, the premiere was a triumph. The theater, packed with locals and press, erupted in applause as credits rolled. Reviews praised its heart. "A story of redemption through art," one critic wrote. Sarah and I shared the stage, thanking Grandma, our family, the world. Post-premiere, life settled into a new rhythm. The shop became a permanent residency, artists rotating through. The fund expanded, building a sister garden in Argentina. Sofia stayed, co-directing it. Alex and I married in August, a small ceremony in Grandma's backyard. Sarah, maid of honor, painted our portrait as a gift, us under the stars, lockets gleaming. "No mockery this time," she whispered, hugging me. The sequel book launched, incorporating Sofia's stories and the garden ceremony. It climbed charts, cementing our legacy, but the true ending was personal. Sarah and I, once divided, now sisters in every sense, co-creators, confidants. One quiet September evening, I sat in the shop, the locket warm against my chest. A new piece rested on my workbench, a ring for Alex, etched with Grandma's words, "In every heartbeat, forever yours." Outside, snow began to fall, a nod to that Christmas when it all began. Sarah joined me, brush at her heels. Think Grandma's watching? I know she is, I said, smiling. She changed everything. The story closed there, not with fanfare, but with peace. From mockery to masterpiece, Grandma's reaction had reshaped us, coherent in its arc, cohesive in its love, magnetic to its end.